friends, it's your art teacher, Miss Barnett, and this week we've been talking about capturing action using stencil painting. So last week we talked about positive and negative space and you completed this assignment. We're going to create something very similar to this. This is going to turn into a stencil. So you will need for this project a thick piece of paper. I'm using half of a manila folder here. You could also use construction paper. A larger piece of paper is better than a smaller piece of paper, but use what you have. A pencil, some scissors, a sponge. I cut up a kitchen sponge just in half. And then I have a couple of different colors of paint. And you're going to want a tray or maybe a paper plate to put this in so you can dip your sponge. And I'll show you what to do. Get all those materials together and meet me back here and we'll get started. All right, friends, I found my reference. I think I'm going to do this guy falling. He looks pretty interesting. So I'm going to, I could start with just the basic kind of picking up his motion, just like on this leg. So I'm just kind of doing a stick figure, and then I can build up my values from there, or my shapes. So I'm going to come around and add some volume to this guy. Just by adding some volume. He's got a neck, don't forget the neck. Okay, there is my form. And just like before, we're going to take our scissors and cut out the negative shape. I'm going to fast forward so you can watch me do that. All right, friends, I've cut out my stencil, my negative shape. I was not so precious with these pieces for the positive shape. I just cut them out. Don't worry about keeping them together like we did on the last assignment. Not necessary for this. Just get a clean cut, as clean as you can for your stencil. That's the most important thing. All right, friends, the next thing I'm going to do is set up my printing station. So I've got a couple of lids here. You can use whatever you want, a paper plate. I like to use the lids because, I don't know, I like to reuse things. So I've got some blue here and some red. You can use any colors you want. I would try to stick with things that don't necessarily aren't next to each other on the color wheel because you might have some blending issues. And you're going to need some sponges. Once you've got that set up, we'll get started. All right, guys, I went over and I dampened my sponges and I squeezed all the extra water out so they're just slightly wet. Here's the fun part. We're going to place our stencil on our paper. And remember, we're repeating this across, so we want to start on one side and work our way over. You're going to take your sponge and just blot it in the paint. It's probably a little too much, but that's okay. And then you're just going to press. Very cool. You want to make sure it's evenly layered. We don't want a big puddle of paint. Looks pretty good. We can put the sponge back on your paper plate or your tray. We will lift, and there is a nice, pretty clean stencil. Then you're going to overlap it and try a different color. Let's do red. A little bit of red on my sponge, overlapping, pressing. If you need more, just dab a little bit more on. Go to town. Make sure you get good coverage the whole way through the stencil. Okay, put that down, lift, and rhythm. Let's do it again. We can tilt. We want to turn him slightly. It'd be kind of boring just to be in a straight line. So we can tilt him as we go too. Let's put some more red on because I got more purple than blue that time. Let's build a lot of red in. If you notice, the colors naturally kind of mix. That's why I was saying you want to pick colors opposite each other or not so close together on the color wheel. You want some contrast with your colors so you can see your lines and your shapes. Oops, try not to do what I just did here, which is print off the paper. Nice. Lift and place down again. Let's do some blue again. You're just going to keep repeating and creating a rhythm. Nice. And we'll just keep going. I'm going to start speeding up the tape. All right, my friends, here's my finished stencil printing. I've created visual rhythm. I went from one side of the paper to the other. I've overlapped. I've repeated. I think it looks really cool. When you're done, your stencil is pretty much garbage. It's kind of hard to reuse this guy. You could if you haven't overwet him, but I'm not going to keep mine. You can choose to keep yours if you want. But I cannot wait to see how these